What's going on, guys? I'm Tyler, and I'm here to let you know that The Hunt is no perfect movie. And The Hunt centers around a mysterious woman with no name, played by Betty Gilpin, who finds herself surrounded amongst conservative and alt-right Americans who have been drugged, kidnapped, and are now being hunted for sport by a liberal elitist, played by Hilary Swank. And I think most of you know more about the movie's publicity as opposed to the actual movie itself. When it got announced, when the trailer dropped, so many people instantly hated it for a variety of different reasons. Trump supporters were calling it biased, liberals were calling it biased, and the fact that so many people had nothing but aggressively negative things to say about the movie, the fact that they hated it without really even seeing it or understanding what it's about, really just goes to show how they accidentally have proven the movie's point. And it really just goes to show how important it is that movies like this get made. Movies that don't take one political side over another, take both of them, examine the strengths and weaknesses, in this movie's case, the weaknesses essentially, because that's really something that frustrates me deeply about audiences when they go see a movie or a show nowadays. We've gotten to the point where audiences want movies to repeat their already predetermined political beliefs in order to be entertained because in their mind their opponent's ideals have already been disproven. And this movie says that's not really true. And the idea that we ourselves aren't as flawed as the people we hate is also not really true. And something that really sparked my interest in wanting to check out this movie in particular was there was this review of the brand new Animaniacs reboot that said it was great that they took one political stance, liberal leaning, as opposed to trying to cater to both sides. And I found that an extremely ignorant claim for a variety of reasons. For one, as I mentioned before, every political ideology has weaknesses. You'd have to be a complete coward to deny that. Two, wouldn't it be a better idea to make a movie or show with liberal and conservative actors that embrace right-wing ideals, left-wing ideals for a variety of different reasons to show that political differences don't matter and we can still get along with people either way? Isn't that a more important thing to accomplish? Three, what show or movie nowadays actually does cater to both sides? Because I can't find one. If there are some that I just haven't seen, let me know in the comments below because I would love to check them out. It would be a huge change of pace, and that's what makes the writing in The Hunt so good, is that it really is a change of pace as opposed to taking certain political topics or stereotypes and talking about them in the exact same way that a newscast or a liberal leaning movie would. It instead tries to take those subjects and look at them from more of a devil's advocate fashion that most people wouldn't even dare try to. For example, in the opening scene, all the conservatives find this crate carrying a bunch of loaded weapons to supposedly make the hunt more fair. And there's one girl who refuses to touch a gun because she's never seen one up close, let alone even know how to use it. And she ends up being one of the first people to die, which instantly debunks this idea that every right-wing person knows how to operate a gun or even likes guns in the first place. And 5 minutes later, the people who have survived at that point come across an anti-gun civilian and they explain where the safety is, how to operate it, even though they've never owned that specific model, within a split second. Meanwhile, the people that are hunting them throw a grenade without even taking the damn pin out. Which really goes to show, yes, there are actual people who are gun owners and know how to operate one in order to defend themselves without accidentally killing anyone. And that requires a lot of research and education. And believe it or not, there are some NRA nutheads who actually have education and research behind owning a firearm. I don't understand why that's such a far-fetched thing to understand. Yes, we do see people on the news accidentally shoot an unarmed person when they're trying to defend themselves, and that part is disappointing. But have you ever noticed that newscasts don't show the instances where owning a gun does, in fact, save a person's life in self-defense? Just because the news doesn't show it doesn't mean stuff like that never happens. But for me, the biggest instance of calling people out on their bullshit, and this was one that I wasn't sure I was going to talk about in this video, but I mean, the movie flat out said it. I can't really deny that it happens. When Hilary Swank and her cohorts are trying to select people for this hunt, because we do get a movie montage that explains how that happened, they consider for a split second to put in a black conservative, and then as soon as they see the picture of him, they instantly change their mind because they don't want to admit the fact that, yes, there are some conservatives that are not white, let alone conservatives that aren't white supremacists. These are all proven facts. If you've ever watched Candace Owens on Fox News, you know what a slimy bitch she is, and you know for a fact that it's just disappointing that she seriously buys her own bullshit. But because this movie is about pointing the weaknesses of each ideology and keeping them equal, the movie never condones the conservative ideals that these people being hunted have. Whenever they call each other snowflakes or waste their time holding an unarmed black guy hostage as opposed to running farther away from the people that are hunting them, you do feel the same way about them as you would feel about any conservative in any other movie. You would hate them within an instant, and you would be glad that they're going to die. And that's the thing. Everyone in this movie who does die is so consumed with the hatred of other people who are even slightly different from them that they drop their guard at the worst possible time, and that's what ends up getting them killed. And it's also what makes Betty Gilpin such an easy character to identify with and like. You never actually hear her say anything political. You never definitively find out whether or not she is a bigoted person or simply just has different thoughts or feelings than others. And she doesn't even really care why these people kidnapped her in the first place. All she knows is that she was kidnapped, people are trying to kill her, and she knows she has to take care of that in order to survive. And she knows that if she gives into the hatred, she's going to drop her guard and she's going to be much more vulnerable. She spends less time talking about political beliefs and much less time talking than the other characters because she gives such a really good visual-based performance, and more time just asking assistance from people that she has cleverly deduced are on her side, and it leaves a lot of an implied backstory as to where she got such really good survival skills. At one point, she even shields people that you would not associate with conservatives from danger. It's the great example of judging a character based on her actions as opposed to her words, and that was what made her, in my opinion, one of the best characters this entire year. I loved Gilpin's performance. She dedicated a lot to the stunt work that I'll talk about in a little bit, and on top of that, the fact that we don't learn that much about her just makes her so much more mysterious, and honestly a lot more badass too, especially during the finale. Now, politics aside, Craig Zobel, the director, who's better known for stuff like Compliance or Z is for Zachariah. Why is it so hard to pronounce the letter Z? I really don't understand that. Politics aside, he directs this movie in such a great way that you can still enjoy it as a really badass hardcore action movie. The action scenes are filmed in steady wide shots that are held for longer periods of time than most action movies with quick cut editing in order to show the fact that these are the actors really doing their own stunts as they're losing limbs, they're splattering blood as they get stabbed, or during this really awesome finale, this catfight between Betty Gilpin and Hilary Swank, where they're just going through so many glass windows, was absolutely awesome. And I forgot that Hilary Swank could really do action, because other than $1 Million Baby, I haven't seen her do anything like this in a long time, and that was a great breath of fresh air. The violence was it was so over the top in a Quentin Tarantino fashion that does lend to the higher stakes and tension because it makes certain death scenes unpredictable. It makes you root for Gilpin as a character a lot more, but it's also done in such an over the top way that you never take it too seriously. It lends to the comedy because each death gets more absurd as time goes by, including one where a guy gets a grenade stuffed down his pants, and seeing him struggle before he died was just, it made it so much more hilarious. It was fucking stupid, but it was just done in such a campy way where it says, do not take the movie itself seriously. Judging a movie based on its political opinions in general is just such a dumb and pointless idea. It's very self-reflective on how we really shouldn't be judging fiction as an actual moral guideline. It's really hard to describe. But, shit, what else was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. I also really like how Zobel builds up Hilary Swank as this over-the-top villain by never showing her face up until the very end. It had that Saturday morning cartoon feel where they reveal the villains in such an over-the-top way, and Swank is over-the-top in a way that actually does suit the material. It's not like Logan Lucky where I don't even know what she was trying to do in that, but it knew when to be over the top and it knew when to make the audience think about their actions. And that's the best way a movie can examine something in terms of politics. Now, the only real downside with The Hunt is that, as you can probably guess by everything I've just said, there isn't a shred of subtlety. You know which scenes are lampooning certain sides of the political spectrum and why. You know who's going to die, you know who's going to live, and the fact that almost every character in the movie uses these stupid, trendy catchphrases or political slogans whenever they're trying to be PC or whenever they're trying to be really raunchy and discriminatory, it makes certain scenes fall flat because the jokes are just that on the nose. But at the same time, I can't really think of a way to call out the political divide, how it's such a dangerous, huge waste of time in a subtle way, at least not with a script like this. And that's really all I got. All I can really say other than that is I had a blast with The Hunt from start to finish. It's one of the best movies I've seen all year. Craig Zobel as a director does a great job. Betty Gilpin and Hilary Swank were awesome. And the fact that this is a movie made by liberals poking fun of liberal mentalities just felt so brutally honest. And the fact that you've seen actors in these movies work in liberal and conservative leaning movies or with conservative leaning people really goes to show how much they genuinely believe in the material they're performing with. Hilary Swank, she got her Oscar from a Clint Eastwood movie, and Clint Eastwood is a libertarian who votes for the Republican Party. So to say that these actors aren't willing to work with right-wing leaning people so long as they can actually cooperate, it just feels so uplifting, and it's the type of message that we need, especially right now. And for all those reasons, I'm going to give The Hunt a 4.5 out of 5. Guys, thanks as always for watching. Let me know in the comments below just how much you disagree. I'll be ready for it. Be sure to let me know in the comments below. Be sure to stay tuned for more reviews, and be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.